Nevada seems like they're a few plays away from being an 8-3 team rather than 3-8. Had 5 touchdown or less losses. What are some of the things that they're doing that they're playing pretty good football?
Yeah, Jesse, they're playing really good football. I mean, I think you go back even to the beginning of the year. I mean, you look at how well they played SMU, who is probably the best team in the ACC so far this season. You look at how well they played in Boise, 2 weeks ago. And it's not a surprise when you go through one by one talent-wise. My goodness, the way they have multiple guys that are transfers from Texas or from Utah. And, you go down the depth chart and you look at guys that are in their 5th year or 6th year, the starting guards in his 7th year. And, they're getting really, really good play from the quarterback. Obviously, a guy coming out of high school was really highly recruited. It was a clear-cut 4-star quarterback coming out of high school. And, to look at his production, he's rushed for, I think, almost 700 yards, and he's like 162 he's completed 67% of his passes, played really, really well. They've had excellent balance offensively and defensively. They are very talented and old.
Would assume that you guys put a ton of time into looking at Brendan Lewis in 2022 when Colorado came here as a possible guy that could start. In what ways is he similar or different to the guy that you prepared for?
Yeah, he's just so much further along. Like I said earlier, I mean, you look at how skilled he is as a passer. He's the most talented quarterback we've played so far. You go back 3 years, through this year, and we played against some really, really good ones. He's dynamic. He's accurate. The ball comes out. He does not take that many hits at all just because they do a pretty good job front, coupled with him knowing to get it out of his hand.
How you doing today, Coach?
Good.
Just the progress you've seen your team make the last 3 weeks. It's a young football team that we talked about not having experience earlier on the season. How proud of you of these guys for hanging in there and then making the progress and the steps to win football games?
Well, really, especially the last 3 months, you're always trying to see, all right, can we be a little bit better today than maybe we were, 2 or 3 weeks ago? I mean, I think that's a continual, and our guys will keep pushing forward. I mean, obviously, you guys know how strongly I feel about Tuesday practices. Our players do too. They embrace the fact that we have to play when we wear our pads. We have to grow. We have to get better, and we want that this afternoon too.
All right. I know your focus is on today's practice, or probably what happens before today's practice. But looking ahead, if you finish with 2 more wins and you get to 5 wins, is there any reason you guys would not accept a bowl game if the circumstances play that way?
We aren't there. You're right. I mean, you said it right at first. We're just that's not where we are. I mean, we're in the moment and getting ready for Nevada. That's as far ahead as. I mean, we have a tough challenge this week. And again, you go through that roster and it's night and day different, just difference between, what we need to do and who we're playing against. And because of it, we got a gap we got to close here in the next 4 days.
Okay. And with Grant Ewell, I know you've mentioned, the injury situation and how you maybe triple checked with trainers to make sure everything. Can you kind of take us through what he went through and how he was able to get back?
Yeah. When we were down at Baylor, I think it was in the middle of the second quarter, if I recall correctly. Kaz, our trainer, came up to me and said, "Coach, this is a pretty serious knee injury." And I said, done for quite a while? And he said, probably done for the season. And then about 3 weeks later, it was probably about the second week of October, he said, there might be a chance. He said, I think it's a real long shot that maybe Ewell could come back at some point, maybe the second week in November. I said, well, come back and really be able to practice and play. He said, we're dealing with a rare guy here.
And now can you expand on that? Aside from the injury, just the player and then the cadet athlete, everything you've interacted with him.
Yeah, he easily qualified to come to the academy. which that's not often you can say somebody's easily qualified, just with the standards of what are required here. And all of our background on him was that, all the intangibles, tremendous instincts, loves to play, loves contact, gets it when it comes to being a part of something more than just his own shell, his own self, and yet just the resiliency. And I think he made a couple of key plays last week, especially in the open field.
He's been a part of what has been a much more productive pass rush, and you guys are getting pressure on the quarterback with really rushing 4 guys at times. Why? What has changed there?
Guys have played a little more. I mean, it's not like we came into the season having, Lawrence Taylor at one edge in year 9 or Bosa on the other edge in year 7. I mean, these are young fellas, and you need to play.
What has Quentin proven to you since getting more reps, getting more game experience? Has he proven to you that, hey, he can be a really good quarterback for us?
Yeah, I mean, he just, his commitment to practice. He's a very, very quick learner, excellent presence. Just the clock, and we don't change a lot of plays, but if necessary, to be able to do that too, that usually takes a lot of time.
When you throw in a wide receiver pass like you did last week, what is the decision-making process in determining who's going to throw that ball? How do you make that decision?
Yeah, it's not exactly open tryouts. I think over the years, guys that had a few throws, Jalen Robinette did. We threw the double pass, I think, twice. We did we threw it 2 different times. I think it was in 2014, where we had him wing that thing. Trying to find somebody that maybe the ball comes off their hand a little bit. You're always seeking that in any quarterback. Certainly you are if you're ever going to throw a double pass. But we don't have a lot of those. Let's be real. That's a rarity, and that'd be an understatement.
But when you say, how the ball comes off his hands, how do you even observe that? To see the receivers throwing enough to kind of say, hey, maybe this guy, or are you just leaning back on what they maybe did in high school?
You probably go play some catch with them here or there. You see guys, like if you throw a ball down the field and they throw it back to the next guy, you think, holy cow, that guy didn't have too much trouble being able to flip that thing.
And then with Brandon Ingle, do you remember seeing anything with him that made you think, okay, we can
saw
trust
it in
him?
practice, just because he was back there so often catching punts. And when he'd flip it back to the snapper or hit the relay guy, there's usually a relay guy because you just don't throw it from the warning track all the way to home plate. There's somebody out there in between. And all right, that thing didn't have a whole lot of loft to it. Now, we aren't ready to say that's Troy Aikman. He's from Dallas. We aren't quite there yet.
And this series traditionally been very, very close every game. Is there, and I realize every year has been different. Their teams have been different. Is there a common thread, or can you pinpoint why these 2 programs tend to be locked like that?
I can't. Now that you say it, you go back, and 12 went back and forth, and 2013 and 14 were unbelievable games. Those 2 years, holy cow, what football games. 17 was that stray ball in the last play of the game. There, hit a field goal at the end to win it. 18 here. They jumped ahead at halftime a good bit. I think we might have only had 1 first down in the first half in 18. And then DJ went in, and we made a little rally, and we got all the way down there inside the 10 at the end in 18. Didn't play in 19, didn't play in 20. Yeah, I mean, there have been, now that I think about it. I can't tell you, is there a common thread that comes to mind? No, there's not. Just because I don't know how many resemblances there are, other than I do think both teams play really hard.
All right. I want to start by talking about the pass. At what point did you know that was, going to be called in the game?
We've been practicing it for a few weeks, just had to call it at the right time. And I was a little bit shocked that it was after a big play by JR that we called it. And, no, it was just the first option was kind of covered. I won't go too much detail of it, but Q made a good play of, staying close to me and then, making a run after. So.
Yeah, obviously, you're not a quarterback. At what point did you decide you were going to keep the play alive as opposed to just breaking it and running?
I had a feeling that they were going to cover a couple other people on the play, and I was going to run it, and then kind of realized that option wasn't going to work out too well for me. So and then I just figured I'd let Q do the work. So.
And I talked to Coach about this, but kind of how do you audition for that role? To be the one that gets to throw the pass when that's called.
I played quarterback a little bit in high school, but then also just messing around at practice. They kind of just see you mess around. We got a bunch of guys that could probably do it, in the future years, but I don't know. I guess they thought I could do it. So
That's cool. And how are you feeling? And kind of did it take longer than you would have hoped or anticipated to get back to close to 100%?
Yeah, I think it's tough for anybody, to go through, just the season in general. But yeah, I wish that we all during the season that all of us could have been, a little bit more healthy than we are now. But it's been tough. But I think it's good for the team as well. So.
And so it was some sort of lower leg injury, right? Was it at the beginning of practice, basically very beginning of practice, or when did that happen?
It happened in fall camp, and soft tissue's always kind of been my problem, so I was battling that to the beginning of the year, and then so were a couple other receivers, but yeah, beginning of practices. So.
How frustrating is that as a senior to
Right.
have that right at the onset of the season?
Yeah, it's tough for sure. You don't really expect being hurt or not being able to go out there for that first game, especially your senior year. But it comes with the sport. It's a physical sport, and you got to take care of your body and get ready to play. So.
And now, as everything's kind of come together with the team, last week we saw the passing game become a big part of it. What kind of excitement does that add to what you guys can do, and kind of what kind of weapon does that add in the game plan when you guys know that you can go out now and be effective in that area?
Yeah, it's nice. I mean, you're always looking for the team win first, for sure, because we were fighting for so many weeks, to go get that thing. And then just open it up and for the X room to contribute as much as possible. That's what we want to do. Whether it's in the pass game or the run game. So it's been exciting, and we'll see how we do in the next few weeks. So.
And are you guys aware that 5-7 could mean a bowl game? Is that kind of a new goal, and is there awareness among the team of that?
Yeah, I mean, you want to win out no matter what, of course. Especially how we started, and it's in our mind for sure that we could play a little bit further past the season, past November 30th. But, you got to focus on one game at a time. We've seen that so many times where look too far ahead, especially last year, did the same thing. So, just take it one game at a time and see where we end up at the end of the season.
Awesome. All right, I have a couple questions. I'll let him ask the first 10. How proud are you of this team, right? 1-7 start, but the way you guys have played the last two games as a senior.
Yeah, you really can't describe it. You see a bunch of guys, step up into a role that are younger, and it's a hard game out there. Mountain West is a tough conference, and no week is an easy win. And so these past two games, we go out there and dominate how we wanted to all season in the run game, and then making plays in the pass game as well. I mean, it feels so good, and you kind of feel like a little bit of a weight lifts off your shoulders as a team, and then hopefully we just keep that thing rolling.
And so what really clicked a little bit, especially offensively with Quentin at quarterback?
Yeah, I think we just kind of finded ourselves again in the run game. That's always been our DNA is let's get the run game going first. Our O-line's done a really good job of just pushing people off the ball and, being those mean guys up front. And so I think once we had that rolling, then everyone just kind of stepped up. And once you get one play going, one game, one win, the confidence it spreads throughout, and then defense feeds off into offense, and, it's been good. So.
And just with this experience for the young guys, the juniors, the sophomores, do you feel like the program's in good hands going forward?
100%. Yeah, I think making a few plays in your younger years in college football in general just is huge for you going into the next year, going into spring ball and just building off each other and knowing that you can trust your guys around you. Just with so many people that we lost last year, I'm sure they were having doubts in their own mind, and I think it's going to speak numbers next year.
Just to watch this football team grow from week one to now winning 2 games in a row, what was the really big turning point, and how proud of this team are you?
I mean, I don't know if there was necessarily a big turning point because just kind of we've had the same process the whole time. It's just now we're starting to see the fruits of our labor, and but I mean, we still got a long ways to go. Obviously, we only have won 3 games so far, and that wasn't our goals at the beginning of the year. And we know we have more to do, but I'm just super proud of the way that we've continued to fight throughout the year. Just, I mean, after like losing the Army game, it's like we very well could have just rolled over and died, but I'm just proud of the way the boys have just come back and fought the last 2 weeks.
And what does that say about the culture of Air Force football, that you didn't just roll over and die, that you guys came back and you kept fighting?
I mean, it just speaks to the hard work and just love for the game that the boys in the locker room have. And it's awesome to see just that we have a lot of guys that will just never give up and not quit no matter how bad circumstances may seem to be, and just allows you to have a lot of trust in the people that go out there on the field with you next to you on Saturdays.
And what a shutout against what do you call them, Power 4 or 5, whatever Oregon State is, a shutout against them. Is that the kind of defense you guys want to be playing in week 1?
Oh, 100%. I mean, if you can just dominate the line of scrimmage and just make life easy, and that's always like the goal and what you strive for as a defense, to just completely just take out whatever the opposition wants to do. But it also makes it a lot easier to do that when our offense plays really well like it did, controlling the ball, controlling the clock, and just making our life pretty easy, not being out there a whole lot.
And then coming back from that early season injury, do you feel like you're at full strength and playing well right now?
Yeah, I feel pretty good, and it helps that like I have a lot of trust in my teammates, and would think they had trust in me that we just go out there and just keep doing what we've been doing.
Final question for you. Do you feel like Air Force football is in a good place for next year with all these young guys coming in, playing, growing, learning, and experiencing college football?
I think for sure we're in a good place for next year, but more so I think we're in a good place for the next 2 weeks of the year, and if we take care of business, potentially have a chance for a 3rd game. So that's really where all of our focus is, and we're just trying to finish this year right and just accomplish as many of our goals as we can.
Brandon Ingle was just in here and talked about how a weight has been lifted off your shoulders as a team just because you have put things together and experienced some wins. Is that how you feel, or kind of what's your mindset?
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely agree with Brandon there that there is a sense of relief, but coming into the season, nobody would have been happy with being 3-7, 10 games in. So while it's been nice to get a couple wins, we still realize that there's a lot more work to do, and there's a lot more we still can accomplish.
And from what I've heard, your injury was very serious. Like, when you first got the diagnosis, did you assume you were finished playing football?
No, I really didn't. Just, people have just come back, and then as soon as you tell yourself that you're not going to be able to come back, you're not going to be able to come back. So my mindset the whole time was that I'd be able to just join the boys back out there on Saturdays, and thankfully I've been able to do that.
Now, were you ever told in coming back, are you risking further, aggravation or serious injury, or were you totally in the clear?
I mean, obviously, just playing football in general, there's inherent risk, but there wasn't anything significant to where than the other risks you take going out on the field. So it wasn't really a decision or anything I really had to weigh. It was just kind of Doc said I was good to go, and I felt good to go.
Is there a greater sense of appreciation for these last few games because, you could have had it taken away?
Oh, for sure. It just really puts it into perspective that, being a senior, that this is it for me, and just being able to cherish every day in practice I have, every day in the weight room, and then obviously the games I have left, it has maybe made it a little bit more special.
Cool. And then to not only be playing, but playing part of a defense is playing well and everything. Is this kind of what you waited for? Because over those first 3 years where you didn't see much time, is this kind of what you envisioned?
Yeah, it's way more than I could have ever envisioned or hoped for, and just just super thankful that, and like, it feels right that we're starting to play better defense, but we got to be able to string a couple weeks together and we finish this thing out on a high note.